Alrighty, we're up to 1982. Now, for 1982, I'm going to talk about the Vancouver Canucks and the Chicago Blackhawks. This was a series that was ugly. Now, it ended early in that it's not a 7-game series. It's not even a 6-game series. But, boy howdy, on their way to a Stanley Cup Finals appearance, the Vancouver Canucks really got into a very physical matchup with the Chicago Blackhawks. So while we may remember the recent matchups between these teams, this wasn't pretty. In many ways, this was not a pretty matchup. The Canucks were wearing these at the time. So the Blackhawks 30, 38, and 12 during the regular season. Goals scored, 332. They were 7th overall in the NHL. Goals against, 363. 19th in that category. And yet here they were in the conference finals against Vancouver, who were 30, 33, and 17. Both teams were below 500 during the season. 290 goals scored for Vancouver, 18th, so they could not score as well as Chicago, but their goals against 286, which was 5th. So their defense wasn't too bad during that season, and during the playoffs, it was pretty darn good considering it was the 80s. So the fact that Vancouver's defense all came together, and going into the playoffs, they were on an 8-game unbeaten streak. So while their record overall wasn't very good, they did have an 8-game unbeaten streak going into the playoffs. So game 1 in Chicago. Chicago did have home ice in this, although Vancouver did have the better record and were the better team. Second period, we would see fights. You have Campbell against Marsh, and then you have Campbell and Williams paired off with Ruskowski and Secord in the second period as well. So Colin Campbell, let me go ahead and fix that. Missed the P in there. So Colin Campbell, who still works for the NHL. This is why when people talk about, the NHL just wants fighting gone. Not with Colin Campbell in there, they don't. Colin Campbell fought all the time. First period, Gerdine scores from Fraser at 8:02, so Kurt Fraser on the board. Then Terry Ruskowski scores from Preston and Wilson, that's Doug Wilson, at 10 minutes and 11 seconds. 1-1 after 1. Second period, no scoring. Third period, no scoring. First overtime, also no scoring. So double overtime. First time I, as a child, watched a double overtime game. And who scores? Jim Nill from Harold Snepps at 8:58. Nobody saw that coming. That combination, no. Harold Snepps, not really an offensive defenseman. So Brodeur, 46 saves on 47 shots. Tony Esposito, 39 saves on 41 shots. Played well, would not play in Game 2. They were rotating goalies. Game 2, it's Murray Bannerman in net. And this is a game that featured 184 penalty minutes. Harold Snepps had 22. Jerry Minor had 17. Tiger Williams had 12. Jim Nill had 11. On the Chicago side, there were 4 players that had 10 penalty minutes. Marsh, Mulvey, Preston, and Wilson. Yes, Doug Wilson had 10 penalty minutes in that game. That's not Brad Marsh. So I believe it's Peter Marsh. Anyways. First period, Sharpley scores from Murray and Bully at 18:28, so late in the first. Chicago goes ahead at home. Second period, it's Dave Feemster from Sharpley and Lysiak at 11:35. So after 2 periods, it's 2-0 Chicago. In the third, Smeal makes it close with an unassisted goal at 1 minute and 1 second, but Savard restores the 2-goal lead from Higgins at 4:42, and then Savard scores on the power play from Lysiak and Murray at 16:23. And that's where everything changes. This is why I'm covering this series. So game 2, after Chicago scores that 4-1 goal, Ron Smith, assistant coach for the Canucks, yells from the bench, "We give up, we surrender, we give up, we surrender." Tiger Williams turns to his coach and goes, "Hey, Roger, why don't you throw some sticks on the ice?" And Roger's like, "I've done that before. Let's not do that. Why don't we just take these white towels here, put them on our sticks, raise them up, and we'll signal our surrender." That's exactly what they did. So Roger Nielsen, Tiger Williams, and Jerry Minor were tossed out of the game for raising surrender towels, for game misconduct. There you go. You're done. Game misconduct. That's it. You're finished. That was the 4th straight power play for Chicago. They finally scored on it with Denny Savard getting that goal. And it was 4-1 after 2 games. These teams really don't like each other after that. So they come home to Vancouver. Heroes welcome when they get to Vancouver, and fans are waving white towels. So when you wave a rally towel, you can thank Vancouver. We get all the credit for all those riots, and hey, rightfully so. But we also would like to take some credit for those rally towels that everybody waves at games now. Yeah, go team go. And in reality, they're surrender towels. Think about that. They're surrender towels. Now, Game 3 in Vancouver. First period fight between Nill and Hutchinson. And that's it for the fighting in this game. First period, Sharpley scores from Lysiak and Bannerman at 10:18. So Murray Bannerman on the board. He had the 30 saves on 31 shots in that game to Brodeurs 34 saves on 38 shots. So Bannerman looked pretty good. But however, about halfway through the period on a power play, it's Thomas Gradin scoring from Hlinka and Belland at 11:31. And then on a power play, it's Neil Belland with the goal from Smeal and Moline at 14:54. Little known fact, because I don't know that I've ever reported on the channel before. Neil Belland never had a hockey card, so what I had to do instead was take a piece of cardboard and cut it around a hockey card and put Neil Belland's name on it and put a little design and draw a little Canucks logo on it, because I would make Neil Belland cards, because coming out of this series, I thought Neil Belland was going to be a star. I think he was going to be great. Then Doug Wilson would tie it from Keith Brown at 15:57 to make it 2-2. Second period, Kurt Fraser scores from Doug Hallward and Jim Nill at 10 minutes and 3 seconds. And then in the third period, Stan Smeal makes it a 2-goal lead, his second unassisted goal of the series at 2 minutes and 5 seconds of the third period. But Chicago pulls closer. Rick Patterson scores from Marsh and Gardner at 3:14. Bill Gardner. And there your final score is 4-3 for Vancouver. They hold home ice. Bannerman saves 26 out of 30. Richard Brodeur saves 24 out of 27 for Vancouver, and we move on to Game 4. In Game 4, we would have 92 combined penalty minutes. That's not bad, right? Williams, Hallward, Patterson, Feemster, they're all thrown out at 12:28 of the third period. So Tiger Williams gets thrown out of 2 games out of 5 in this series. It's what happened when you had Tiger Williams in your lineup. You just never knew when he was just going to go off. He's remembered for his riding of the stick, which makes sense. Apparently every large truck is choosing now to go by my house. Fine, we'll leave it in. We'll do it live. It's fine. It's not a big deal. I fully expect like a mariachi band to go by next, or maybe some kind of a parade or something along those lines. Okay, so 92 penalty minutes in that game. Tiger Williams thrown out. And yeah, so he was remembered for riding the stick on that goal, which he didn't. I think he did that once. I think he did that once in his whole career. I don't remember him doing it more than that. But anyways, there you go. First period, power play goal, Darcy Rhoda from Belland and Hlinka at 106. There's that Belland kid. He's going to be a big star. I legit thought he would be. Second period, power play goal for Vancouver again. It's Ivan Boldarev from Lars Moline at 4:16. Boldarev then scores from Sneps and Smeal at 14:08. And then it's Sharpley that gets Chicago on the board from Murray and Wilson at 16:19. It's 3-1 Vancouver after 2 periods. Third period, power play goal, and it's Denny Savard on the power play at 2:33. No sticks were raised in protest on that one. Doug Hallward then scores from Jerry Minor at 4:48. About a minute later, Thomas Gradin scores from Fraser and Smeal at 5:51 before Grant Mulvey scores from Brown and Gardner at 16:10. Your final score is 5-3 for Vancouver. Esposito saves 26 out of 31. Richard Brodeur continues his roll towards his just godlike status in Vancouver with 27 saves on 30 shots to push Vancouver to the brink of a Stanley Cup. But we're going to Chicago for Game 5. Game 5 would see brawls in the first period, 2 of them, at 7:43 and at 18:26. And then Colin Campbell in the third period has a fight with Terry Ruskowski, because why not? 182 penalty minutes in this game. Ron Delorme had 15 of them. Doug Hallward had 21. Jim Nill had 15. Tiger Williams had 22 penalty minutes. He may have got thrown out of this game as well. Sure. Feemster, 15 penalty minutes. Mulvey, 20 penalty minutes. Ruskowski, 20 penalty minutes. And Al Secord with 17. These teams didn't like each other. This was an ugly, ugly series. And Vancouver's reward coming out of this was they got to go fight the toughest team in the history of the Hockey League. Potentially, I don't know, you can fight it out about whether or not it's the Islanders of the 80s or the Flyers of the 70s. Somebody's the toughest team in the league. You guys can figure it out. First period, Jim Nill scores on the power play from Neil Belland and Lars Moline at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Smeal then scored from Lars Lindgren and Thomas Gradin at 3:48. Lysiak scores from Savard and Wilson at 5:09 to make it 2-1. But Moline scores before the period's out from Lindgren and snaps at 15:35. It's 3-1 Vancouver after 1. Second period, no scoring. Third period, power play goal, Mulvey from Murray and Wilson at 2:38. And then Darcy Rhoda restores the two-goal lead with a goal from Lindgren and Bolderev at 5:14. Smeal gets a goal from Gradine and that star of the future, Belland, at 11:20. And then Ivan Bolderev with an unassisted goal at 16:17 makes it 6-2 in favor of the Vancouver Canucks. Brodeur saves 36 out of 38. Godlike status is confirmed. Bannerman saved 8 out of 11. He's replaced by Esposito, who saved 14 out of 17. And the Chicago Blackhawks were sent packing in 5 very fight-filled games. This was a violent series. We'll cover the scoring, but we're going to cover the penalty minutes first. Mulvey, 44 penalty minutes. Feemster, 30. Ruskowski, 32. Marsh, 20. And Secord, 42 penalty minutes. 271 for Chicago in 5 games. On the Vancouver side, Jim Nill, 38. Sneps, 22. Hallward, 38. Colin Campbell, 40. And Tiger Williams with 51. So 283 penalty minutes overall for Vancouver for a total of 554 penalty minutes in 5 games between two teams that really, really didn't like each other. And it was an ugly series. Doug Wilson, a goal and 4 assists. Savard, 3 goals and an assist. Sharpley, 3 goals and an assist. Lysiak had a goal and 3 helpers for the Hawks. And Bob Murray had 4 assists. Esposito was 0-2 with an .888 save percentage. Bannerman was 1-2 with an .889 save percentage. But at the other end of the rink, you had Brodeur 4-1 with a .928 save percentage. Richard Brodeur was in the zone that year. Stan Smeal, 4 goals, 3 assists to lead the Canucks. Gradine, 3 goals, 2 assists. And there's that Neil Belland, a goal and 4 assists. Yeah, I really thought Neil Belland was going to be, I was as excited about him as I would be as a Boston fan about Torrey Krug many, many, many years later. Bolderev, 3 goals and an assist, and Lars Moline with a goal and 3 helpers for Vancouver. And yeah, Richard Brodeur was the guy in net. And Vancouver, they won this series going away. And it's definitely a battle between these two cities that very often gets won by Chicago after this. But on this occasion, Vancouver would end up going to the Stanley Cup Finals. They would get swept by the Islanders. A series that was close at the start of it, and then by the end it was pretty obvious the Islanders were just going to win it. But Vancouver, it was a tough team. That was a team that could go out there. They could score, although they were 18th out of 21 during the regular season. And boy, if there was going to be some fights breaking out, that was one tough squad. All right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video, and hey, I thought this would be a fun series to look at because that's the origin of the towels, and that is a series where a lot of things happened that became kind of iconic for Vancouver fans later. The 1982 run to the Stanley Cup Finals, and there were no riots after that Stanley Cup Finals either. None. Because they lost in 4. I think that's part of what it was. I think once you get wiped out in 4, I think that's pretty much it. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. Do hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through and just happened upon this. And hey, I will talk to you again soon.